from 10, 15 years ago won't buy much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him, and 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We're live and doing somewhat of a late night stream, but yet I got a couple articles I want to share with you. And as you guys can see from the very subject title, 21,000 victims of economic deterioration. And, one thing I wanted to just throw out there, some ideas and some thoughts, and pose that question, will you be next? And so it's one of the things where you never know when your number's called in regards to your employment status, especially in an environment where the economy is deteriorating at a very fast rate, to where it can come out of the blue. It can happen to anyone at any time. So I want to share some of my thoughts on how to better position yourself mentally if you are employed, and especially in the service sector. And so I want to bounce some thoughts and ideas up off you, as well as get your thoughts and take on what's going on. And as always, won't be long tonight. And so long as my microphone is good, we should be fine. And so if I get caught up in a rant, definitely give me a call, let me know if something's happening. But that being the case, welcome to the live stream. My name is Mike, the host of Detroit's #1 YouTube talk show. 313-462-0027 is the number to give me a call and to share your thoughts or what's on your mind. And then over here we have a chat. Definitely let me know what's on your mind there. And before I begin sharing my thoughts for this evening, I will check in with the chat and see who's tuning in. And so we got low blood pressure, says 1. We got Excalibur from Corpus. Yep, we got Christopher. We got Johnny. And what else we got here? This trash earlier today was FUD. Anthony, definitely, I appreciate the comment, my friend. Let me know your thoughts on the FUD from earlier. Scott, Christopher, Kenneth, Laura Spade, Worldwide Emergency. Mike, what's good, brother? How you doing? So yeah, so I wanted to check in because I actually came across the information about Thomas Cook yesterday, and I ended up sharing it on the Facebook page as just a news article. So for those that are on Facebook, definitely follow the Rethinking the Dollar channel over there, because I post articles whenever it comes across my my viewpoint. But that being the case, Thomas Cook, 178-year-old company. And so this isn't the first company that's a century old plus that all of a sudden, because of the economic environment we're in, they had to shut it down. Just because of the, it boils down ultimately, and this is where I would say, this is a part of what I'm going to share with you guys tonight. If you're in the service sector, employed at a company, especially that does international, is international, you might want to take a peek at their balance sheet. If it's public, if they're a publicly traded company, then definitely you can check out their balance sheet, because more than likely what it's going to boil down to, and I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Thomas Cook's situation has to do with the corporate debt, because we're at all-time highs of corporate debt, and Thomas Cook that had to close its doors because they couldn't pay back their creditors, I think to the tune of 250 million pounds. And so if you have a corporation that's 178 years old in the hole to their creditors to the tune of 250, then it's one of them things where do the funds come from when they're probably penny pinching to be profitable in the first place by offering services at a much lower cost than their competitors. And the model of making a profit these days is very skeptical when people aren't spending as plentifully as they used to. So we're going to dive into a couple articles, but let me get your thoughts on what's going on here. And so it says, great content, and I appreciate that. Anthony says the Q breaking Bitcoin. I like Adams, but he's better with food. He's pissed me off a BTC years ago. Yeah, so in regards to the little RTD quick take I shared earlier on the quantum computing. And so when I saw that article, I thought I would just share it because it's one of the things that I've expressed those same concerns years ago. So it's nothing new. But yet for those that might be new to the channel, it might pose as being something new. But whether it's true or whether it's false is irrelevant at this current moment. But keep in mind, and I'm going to leave it at this, if it's an object, if it's something that's made by man utilizing the computer technology, then clearly I hope you would be able to believe and to see that if there was some type of computer with the computing power of what this quantum computers is labeled as possessing, with the qubits and 250,000 qubits and solving computations that takes 10,000, all that technical talk. And so if you believe that a man created the protocol, the blockchain protocol, why wouldn't a supercomputer be able to decipher, break up, or derail the promises that the blockchain offers? So I'm not saying that the quantum computers will do it. Definitely it could be just FUD out there to get people, scare tactic. Could be the case. I just thought I would put it out there, let you guys chew on it and do what you got to do with it. But my motto is, if it's made by man, the man is definitely capable of manipulating it. Just like we see with everything in this current monetary system, fiat system, credit system, all man-made, all man-destroyed. So I'll leave you with that. And so we'll keep it going from there. And so Worldwide says, hey, Bitcoin Ben might be on to something with his latest video. I got a chance to check it out a little bit tonight, talking about ICE and BACT and stuff like that. Didn't dive deep into it, but once again, it's one of the things where my only concern, and something that concerns me more than ever, is that people are taking too much of people are overly optimistic in the blockchain technology, in particular Bitcoin, as being some type of savior of our monetary order, in a sense that it's going to derail the powers that be and going to put the power back into the people's hands. And that's where I feel I'm concerned, because it can be a viable option in the short term, but don't bank upon it being something that you're going to prosper off of in the midst of an economic chaos, just because I truly believe that the protocol, the blockchain technology, the cryptography, and the way it's presented to us now, the current form of blockchain we have now, I truly don't believe it was put forth as a, let me free the people, let me help the people prosper in the greatest wealth transfer that will ever happen in humanity at this current moment in time, into the hands of people who So that being the case, I'm gonna leave it at that, because that's not what I'm here to talk about. But any other night, feel free to call and let me know. And so back to this title of tonight's subject matter. As you guys can see from the thumbnail, 21,000 people became economic victims, like victims of economic deterioration that they probably had no clue was coming. And I want to shine some light on some articles here and just share my thoughts on it, and put some thoughts and ideas out there to you guys on how I personally am trying to wrap my mind around the shift that's currently taking place. Because what's going on is a paradigm shift mentally, but more so it will be a monetary shift, as well as a social economic reshifting of power from west to east. So you factor all that in, there's some things that we should talk about, not necessarily concern ourselves with, well, are we going to be prosperous on the other side? Will I be a millionaire when all this stuff happens? That's irrelevant, because the amount of destruction that's going to take place, and the increasing of hopelessness in the human race will be so bad that I doubt you'll be able to live comfortable being high on the hills, because you were prepared, but yet those around you crumbled. So let me share some thoughts with you. I'm going to share an article here because I'm thinking about this, and I've talked about it several times before. And so if you've been with the channel for a while, let's go back to late December of 2018, when I talked about what I believe 2019 was going to become. And so far it's playing out very accurately, just because it's just inevitable that as the monetary system looks to save itself, the ripple effects will become obvious into the mainstream economy, to where the deterioration of the economy due to debt is becoming problematic. So here we have a 178-year-old company that all of a sudden can't meet their their debt obligations. So they surprised 21,000 people, of which the top 100 knew it was coming. And the top 100 I'm referring to are the executives, the board members, the presidents, and even the people who have been getting greater than normal pay over the last couple of years heading to this hiccup. So there's a small few out of that 21,000 that knew, and they were the people that were in the boardroom, in the offices. They actually paid attention to their corporation's balance sheets and saw that they were in the red heavily. And so what does this mean to you? The reason I mention this is because at any time, any place within this year, so from this exact moment in time and space that you guys are watching me until next year at this exact same time, so September 23rd, 2020, you have a year window. And this is just my gut feeling that between now, if you are in the service sector, if you work for a corporation that does business globally or even domestically or has interactions with other corporations that do things internationally, at any moment, your corporation, especially if it's publicly traded, they more than likely have bought into the cheaper than ever credit available to them during this last decade. To more than likely, the corporation you might work for took on an excessive amount of debt that's now about to become problematic. And so not only you factor in this repo situation where we have financial institutions that are a little bit short on cash for whatever reasons, but yet they're going directly to the Fed. And so they're going to be liquefied. As I mentioned, the spigot was going to be cut on, and those closest to the spigot gets watered first. Problem is, you go into the private sector, you go into Thomas Cooks, you go into the GEs, you go into the GMs, you go into you name the corporation out there, all the retail. We've already talked about 30,000 jobs in retail sector. We already talked about that. Those people couldn't get lines of credit, the cash fast credit loans that come from the Fed. So what did they have to do? They had to pay out the board members. They all got bonuses and good severance packages. But the other thousands of people that's not in the boardroom, they got a pink slip saying, I'm sorry. And so these are all things I think we should think about, because at any time, any place, if you're employed or if you're dependent upon industries that are in this particular sector, you could fall victim to it. So these are all things that we all should be, cautious and aware of. So one thing I would tell you, if you work for a publicly traded company, check the balance sheets of your corporate company. That'll give you a slight indication as to where they're at. Even though the numbers could be fudged a little bit or forged a little bit, check your corporation's balance sheet, because if there's some questions on their abilities to live up to their obligations, they can be making some downsizes or some, as they call it, doing some rebalancing of their company structure, which ultimately is a word for firing. And so depending on what you put in there, even if you put in 20, 30 years, at this current moment, because of the deterioration of this global economy, your longevity, your loyalty to the company is irrelevant. So let's get over the fact that I put in 20, 30, 40, whatever, it's irrelevant. And more than likely, if you put in that much time, they're going to be trying to force you out anyway, because you probably have, stayed your welcome a little bit too long and probably cost them more than they think you're probably willing, that you're worth to them. So those are things to consider. So I want to walk you through a timeline here of Thomas Cooks of the last, looks like, couple of hours with the article here, because it's, once again, it's not until things unfold do people begin waking up to what's going on here. And those are the same people that if you just took a second to just assess your environment, to take a look at your corporation's balance sheet and see where they stand amongst all the thousands of other people that's losing their jobs, perhaps you could have made preparations for this time frame. And what I'm going to end up with by saying, the ultimate preparation, I believe, and this is just my opinion, take it for what it's worth, but if you are employed, if you fall into the categories of things I've listed, if your company is a publicly traded company, don't think that you are, even if you're the president, you can fall into a situation where, some debt get called in real quick, and if your reserves aren't heavy, then you could have issues yourself. But one of the biggest things I think will be a healthy mental preparation for everyone that's listening to the sound of my voice. Just an opinion. Give yourself a mental pink slip right now. So I just mentioned a moment ago that between September 23rd, 2019 to September 23rd, 2020, that's 1 year time frame. of which I'm telling you, and you see it, I know you feel it, all around us, things are beginning to contract. Pressures are being, our external pressures are squeezing in on the United States of America. The trade situation plays into that because it's all by design. So don't think for one reason that, next week, 2 weeks now, when Trump and all them cats meet for that trade negotiation, they're going to come out with a grand deal. The deal doesn't matter. It's too late. The course has already been ran. It's time to bring the ship down. And so what I'm saying is you have a 1 year period to give yourself a mental pink slip to where between now and next year, ain't no telling what can happen to our country, nevertheless, your personal country. So begin making preparations and looking at every paycheck you receive as possibly your last. So what does that mean? You have to manage it differently. You have to do things differently. Start making yourself deliberately a little bit more uncomfortable right now, knowing that at any minute between now and the next year, that something could change. God forbid it does. If it doesn't, you'll be even more blessed and happier because you would have provided yourself a little bit of more of a cushion and some wiggle room to maneuver if you need some extra liquidity for your own personal corporation, which is your household. And so here's an article here that I came across, and I've been checking this out throughout the day, and it's been updated because it's a collaboration of all the news stories on this subject matter, and it just goes deep. This situation with 21,000 employees impacts 4 different countries: Spain, UK, France, and Germany. All 4 of them have thousands of employees related to Thomas Cook. And all of a sudden, everybody probably went in Monday morning, apart from the 100 people in the boardroom, knew about Monday morning, the problems they were going to have. So Friday, they probably started cleaning their offices out, but yet your average employee had no clue. So if you go through here, it just gives you some timelines. And it's very sad. Oh, no, this is the wrong one. What is this? This is the wrong one. What is this going? Yeah, so this is the right one, but it just added some other stuff to it. But it's just throughout, these are tabloids all throughout the day that talks about this. And then when I go down to the bottom, it talks about all the people that are stranded. And so this is something that caught thousands of people by surprise. And I want to just put my thoughts out there because it's one of them things where they had no clue it was coming. And so here's an article 7 hours ago. It says city speculators found 2 ways to profit from Thomas Cook's downfall. It says one group shorted its shares in recent months, banking profits as the value of the equity shrank to nothing. And to prove that, here's a look at their stock over the last decade. And so it was $6 a share all the way, took a little dip, rebounded, took a little dip. And as of right now, it was delisted. Like, it's gone. Even to make it even worse, Thomas Cook on Twitter today came out with a public statement. And this is going to be the last public situation that they are talking about. This is going to be the last, let me see. This is going to be, where was it at? Give me 1 second, I lost it. This is going to be the last public statement that was made by this particular company here. And so, oops, where's it at? Oh, well. But, so this Twitter, I'll pull up. That Twitter statement there basically said, we are sorry, but yet the what is it called? Thomas Cook will no longer be a publicly traded company ever again. And so it's just stuff like that that really makes me think about how bad this is when that's going to be the last tweet for their Twitter account. And it's one of the things that nobody knew, but yet a small few. And then it talks about why that was. And it says a group of people who knew about this shorted the stock, made a lot of money off of it. And it says the second took out insurance on his bonds. So somebody took out some insurance on their bonds. It says those credit default swaps are expected to pay out some $250 million or 200 million pounds, or roughly the funding shortfall that brought Thomas Cook down. So somebody who saw this coming took out some insurance on the fact this company was about to go belly up, and they profited heavily while 21,000 people lost their jobs. And this is real talk. This is what has happened as of today, and this ain't the last massive firing that's coming, in my opinion. But enough of me ranting. Let me check in with the chat and see what's going on. As well as always, highlight at Rethinking the Dollar so I can see exactly if you have a question or a thought worth sharing. And so let me see here. Let me thumb through. It says, can broke, debt, slave millennials go and serve in a war against Iran and get maimed or killed for the bankster debt? Rumple. That I don't know that one. It says GE lost have $1 trillion in the last 20 years. GE lost $1 trillion. Yeah, GE is it was one of the longest tenured companies on the Dow Jones up until the last couple of years. So that's definitely not a good sign. It says C-Dog, Mike is X-Mill, right? Not sure what that is. What else we got going on here? It says, check out We Study Billionaires Investors Podcast Network episode Tip 26 with Plan B. All right, that's some good advice out there for people. What else we got here? Please open your phone lines. Oh, I apologize. Phone lines are open. Give me a call, and I'll definitely get you on here. So we have a call. Let's get to this call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Mike? This is Kenny from Pensacola, Florida.
Kenny from Pensacola, Florida. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well. So I heard you talk about I guess what the Federal Reserve is paying the banks.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving them financial aid. I've got the acronym for it.
Yeah, I think I saw something about POMO. I forgot what it stands for, but that's the name. That's the name they're giving it. POMO.
My question was: is what they're doing, is that equivalent to what quantitative easing was?
Is what?
Was that similar to what quantitative easing was? What they're doing now, is that the same thing what quantitative easing was?
It's in that same category, yes. And so quantitative easing before was publicly announced and it was authorized by our Congress to provide liquidity for the failing banks and corporations. So Congress approved of the central bank doing that, whereas now this repo situation is actually typical financial lending that's done on a regular basis. It so happens that right now, because of the economic squeeze, deterioration of the economy, a lot of banks aren't lending to each other like they typically do. And so the lender of all last resort happens to be the very creator of the currency itself, which is the Fed. So they decided to do their due diligence and step in and help out. So from what I've gathered it's always been looked at as you go to the Federal Reserve for a loan in a dire situation. You never need to go outright because you got other buddies in the banking sector that will step up to the plate. But because the borrowing costs, because banks don't trust each other for whatever reason right now, the interest rates on a loan shot up. And so they were bidding to see who would be willing to take out to extend a loan. And it got up to 10% interest for an overnight loan, which is obviously it spells trouble to where the Fed stepped in, and by them offering some liquidity, they lowered it down and all that stuff like that. So it's a new form of QE, not officially announced, but it's the same thing because you got somebody with nothing bringing something into existence and then giving it into the economy. So QE, yeah, in a form.
Okay, and so I watched the speech the Fed Chairman Powell gave, and he mentioned that was due to some tax situations. That's at the end of the fiscal year. Now, do you feel like that was some BS, or he actually lying to people?
No.
Or is this actually legit reason?
Good question. I think that's the best and easiest answer to give because end of third quarter, corporate taxes are due, and so definitely people got to start paying Uncle Sam. Problem is, what happened to all those funds throughout the year? Why all of a sudden now they got a pinch or lack of cash? And so that's just a cover-up answer of my question, because the second and third question, which was be stuff they would never really tell us, is probably because the banks are trying to hold on to as much cash as they can because they know what's coming down the line. And so we still got another quarter. So come end of the year, there's going to be another situation where taxes are due, and who gonna have cash then? So we're gonna see if they're gonna be extending loans overnight at that time as well. So this could be a short period, or this could be an extended period throughout the rest of this year. And we're not even in a recession yet, according to them. So imagine what happens when the economy officially tanks and they have to interject and respond. So yeah. So what he said is probably true on the surface, but yet there's always 2 or 3 layers beneath that of which they don't want us to know.
And I just have one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
And it's about inflation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they keep saying that, like, they want a 2% inflation, stuff like that, but, like, clearly prices are way above, like, 2%. Like, things are, like, you know, if it's probably, like, 10% because, you know, every 10 years, like, prices double. Like, if you go to McDonald's or fast food or whatever, everything is, like, basically double from what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not 20%
Yeah.
or 1.5 times 10. It's not 15%. You know, so like if they can fake the numbers and they can just fake inflation the whole time, like this whole time we can be at 10%, or in the future when inflation does get really bad and they start doing quantitative easing and all that stuff in the future, they can just keep saying that inflation's only at 2%.
Right,
like,
and so
like the numbers are lies.
Yeah, so the numbers aren't lies, but they're fabricated to measure exactly what they're tracking, and they go by the PCE, which is the Purchasing Consumer Index or whatever, but it has nothing to do with the real world items that we use. So up on the screen now I have the Chapwood Index, which is an actual measurement done by Ed Binkowski, who was a former guest I had on the show, and these are the real numbers according to the CPI of actual goods and services. It says 500 items that you and I use on a daily basis. So these numbers here are a lot higher. They're almost double digit in most cities as to what the real inflation rate would be if you measured it according to what people actually used. And so if you look at these numbers and you look at their lack of numbers, you put those together, you stuck in the middle, you know it's damn well better, more than 2%. So that's why you have to just take what they give us as a grain of salt, knowing that those numbers are for them to continue what they do. It's not really the full truth. So, but I'll put this link in the chat so people can see more about it if they're not familiar with it. So appreciate the call, my friend.
All right, brother.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Bye.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that call. Yeah, the Chapwood Index. If there's any question on what the actual inflation rate more than likely is in your city, feel free to check this Chapwood Index out, and you'll get a better look at. So I want to acknowledge a couple people. Fred Flammer, I appreciate you, my friend, for that love offering to the channel. I appreciate that support. And then we got Nurse Dan. I appreciate that love offering as well, my friend. You're a blessing to the channel. I appreciate that. All supporters always welcome. And what else we got going on? So feel free to call in. It's going to be a couple more minutes and I'm going to dial off. But I just want to check in tonight and share my thoughts on what's going on. Because, yeah, it's no end in sight. It will not get better. It will only get worse. And so for those that might just be joining in, what I was hinting at is that 21,000 people got caught by surprise, of which the top 100, the board members and above, they knew it was coming. So Friday they had time to prepare. On Monday morning, that's when 19,990 got shocked. And it has to do with the fact that they had debt obligations that they couldn't pay. So more than likely, they took out a good portion of debt because interest rates are extremely low. And they found themselves in a pinch because of lack of profitability or whatever other issues they may have going on. And so every single publicly traded company, in my opinion, is probably in a line somewhere, somehow with situations like this. And there's an article here I'm going to show you that can probably help you understand what I'm saying a little bit better. Because this is an article from PBS as of a week ago. And it says, is the rise in U.S. corporate debt cause for concern? And so let me give you some numbers here. At this current moment, over the last 10 years, due to the extremely low rates of lending, it says here that the U.S. corporate debt of almost $10 trillion, which equates to half of the nation's annual GDP, should attract our attention. And so they're showing us some pretty graphs here that talks about how we have what we got here. Loans have gone up since 2009. To the very right of this, more people have been deciding to take out a little loans, and now the bills are coming due for some. So some corporations will be able to make their bills due. Some people won't. And it's one of the things where more than likely not too many people actually follow the financial health of their corporation or company that they work for. So you would never know if your company is having issues with paying their bills. And so you could end up being on the short end one Monday morning when you get a notice or email that you go in and the doors are closed or locked. and you fall victim to the same circumstance. So my whole point in doing this tonight was to just share my thoughts about what's going on and how no one's immune from what's going on, whether you're self-employed, a business owner, investor, whatever. It's all interconnected because the very lifeline of our global economy happens to revolve around the Federal Reserve note and the policies implemented from central banks. And so, as I mentioned, a good way to prepare yourself mentally, I believe, would be to give yourself a 1 year early pink slip, to where between this day, 23rd of September, to the 23rd of 2020, you begin changing some of your habits, changing some of your spending habits. If there's a likelihood that you fall into the categories where you could become a victim of the economic deterioration that's underway, then you're gonna, you would probably treat your next paycheck a little bit different than you do now, if you know that possibly something down the line could happen. Not saying that it will, because God is good. God can definitely get you through all this regardless. But if you're aware, it's only natural to make preparations to the best of your ability and let God do the rest. And so that's my 2 cents on that. And it's one of the things where it doesn't take much other than just simply looking at how you currently spend your money, your currency, consumption on things that are not do or die necessities of life. Rethink that stuff. Don't borrow with the intention of consuming it. Right now in this new environment we're in, borrowers are winners and savers are losers. And what I mean by borrowers are winners, people who borrow for their own economic prosperity. So right now you get an interest rate loan at a fairly low price. If you flip that or do something with it to make it grow and then pay it back with cheaper dollars down the line, you've just, became productive. So those are ways of utilizing this environment that we're in, according to what according to your skill set, in my opinion. So those are just my 2 cents there, man. I wanted to get on tonight and share that with you and go from there. But as always, I'm open to hear what you guys think. Feel free to let me know in the chat or give me a call. And as always, those who are calling, if I can't see where you're calling from, I can't answer it. I got to avoid the prank stuff. Because we've had people who have nothing but free time and want to call in and prank and do all kinds of crazy stuff. I ain't got time for that. And so what else we got here? So I want to talk more about this corporate debt situation. So more than likely, this corporate debt situation, it's going to come. And so we got 10 trillion as of last week, $10 trillion out there that's due back. And they're going to be hoping that they'll be able to pay those loans back at a much cheaper rate, or because they'll probably refinance it at a cheaper rate and buy them some more time. And so it's one of the things where, depending on your place of employment, if that's where you fall into, you might want to consider looking at their health sheet, their balance sheet, just so you can see if one day they might be all of a sudden making some rash decisions and laying off people. So hello, caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? Hello? All right, give me a call. I'll get you on here. And so about to get ready to dial back. I just wanted to check in and share my thoughts. And I'll actually post this article so more people can take a look at it for themselves. I want to make sure I provide information. And so as always, I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm just sharing my thoughts on this. This is not financial advice, or I consider just monetary literacy. Do with it what you may. And so, Dewan, how you doing, my friend? So let's see if we can get a couple people on here real quick. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Wisconsin.
How you doing, boss man? What's on your mind tonight?
Oh my gosh, man! When I got that news about those people, because that I was stranded.
Mm-hmm. No, 150,000 or 600. I think 600,000 total. Yeah, I saw something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought about when I went on my trip.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Caribbean. I went to Jamaica, and oh my gosh, man! I just couldn't imagine if I was stranded out there. And I'm not saying where I was at was a bad place, but thinking that you have to go back home and go back to work.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got a lot of people pissed. A lot of people pissed, and that's the thing. Like, it's a airline. I think this is awesome. They got 4 total airlines, and they got everything needed infrastructure. But yet, imagine now the commotion that's now in that whole sector with them people trying to connecting flights and having to spend extra money, and that's
right.
Yeah.
It goes to prove that the self-sufficiency of yourself.
Yeah.
like in case of, prepare just in case of. And you know, when I went over to my trip, I always thought maybe I should bring a roll of silver coins with me. I don't know why I kept having that in my mind.
Yeah, hopefully. Now, yeah, go ahead.
But now, since a situation like that actually happened, it's like, you know what? No matter where I go, I better carry a roll of 20 with me.
Yeah, have some extra cash, and worst case scenario, you know, that's the thing. Like now with events like this happening, where we got travel companies going belly up, airlines. Wow went out back in, what was that? Hell, spring, back in March, April. The Western Europe company, they went out of business. So more airlines are going to be probably going out of business on Mondays when thousands of people are out there traveling. So it's one of the things where you really can't be prepared for airlines when they go out of business, or a travel company or whatever, because it's just, as I mentioned, their financial balance sheet, if they're in heavy debt any minute, they can go belly up.
Yeah, and they can just, it's like by law, they can just say, we quit, we're done. I'm sorry, you keep having fun in the sun.
Exactly. So hopefully, because they can pay, people pay millions of dollars for wherever they're at. So hopefully they can live up to their obligations, at least get people home. Like, close the doors once everybody get home, and, you know, yeah, do people right, man. But yet to just sit like, and to cut the phone lines off, to fire all the customer service, they go home, that's it. You on your own. That's cold blooded right there, man.
It is terrible. But you know, I know they had an alarming thing because with the coin shop that I go to, I remember this was like a few months back that, you know, I go and I buy constitutional silver. I like getting the Lions. I like getting you know, the Standard Liberty or Walking Liberty.
Yeah.
I asked to get some, right? I mean, they have a bucket full of it. Man, the man came back and he literally had the bucket in one hand. There's like about 30 coins left. 30.
Damn. So them boys is going like hotcakes, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So it's just stuff like that alarms. You know, brings me to alarm. So there's something coming down the pipe, and it's going to be. I don't even know if we can really actually prepare for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's one of the things where, and this is where I believe what's transpiring right now, it goes beyond just financial preparation. Like, you know, holding actual real money is one thing, but then you got all the other aspects of your life. And so all that's interconnected to with your psyche. And so if you're mentally in a state where you are, you know, you're already just, you know, quick temper, short mind, short temper, just a head case already, you need to really begin developing some patience now and just doing things a little bit differently and just basically tapping into your creative giftedness, because that's what you're going to need in order to get through this next couple of years, hopefully. So, but that's just my opinion, man. But hey, I appreciate you calling, my friend.
No problem.
Yeah, be good.
I'll call a lot more often.
All right, thanks. All right, have a good night.
All right. You too.
Yeah, man. Good stuff as always. Be careful where you go. You might get stuck, might get stranded. So, that being the case, it's been 38 minutes. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me tonight. I wanted to check in so that I could just share my thoughts with you. So, for those that might be tuning in late, go back and watch the replay because I gave you the whole little shebang, and I don't want to bore you again with my thoughts. But let me have whoever's trying to call in. It's saying unknown, so I can't answer calls like that. So call me from a line where I can actually know who I'm talking to. So with that being the case, everybody's been great hanging out this evening. If you've enjoyed the back and forth, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Either one, whatever floats your boat. As long as you put forth the energy to put something, I appreciate that. And as always, RTD Silver coin still available. It's the only form of weight out there amongst many other, but definitely get physical. Be skeptical of solely digits, no matter what its form and no matter how it's packaged up. Don't put your whole bank into digital illusions, in my opinion. So that being the case, be blessed, be safe. I'll see you guys later. Definitely share this video because a lot of people don't know some of the things that they can use as guiding and tools and measurements to brace themselves to prepare for what's ahead. So other than that, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Peace.